Howdy, Trey McGathan here, and today we are going to overlook the state of the NHL before the preseason begins. We're going to look at who still needs to sign a contract and probably why they haven't signed a contract. We're going to look at recent signings, see what that does for some teams, as well as some of the restricted free agents that still haven't been signed yet. I'm looking at you, Vancouver. So after that, we're going to look at every team's structure and how much cap space they have and predict how they're going to play this year. With that out of the way, let's begin. Recent signings, just a bunch of NHL everyday players for league minimum, $750,000. As for unrestricted free agents, you still got Tuukka Rask. He has a torn labrum. He's not going to be playing until January, so that's not a big deal. Brandon Dubinsky, I have no idea why nobody's tried to sign him yet. Most of all, Columbus. He's one of their best players. James Neal, he recently got bought out, and he's still good on the power play, so I'm sure someone's going to give him a call. My guess would be Ottawa because they desperately need to start signing people and get over the cap floor. Travis Zajac, he's been rumored to be with the Islanders, but considering the Islanders' cap space issues, he would have to take an absolutely massive pay cut in order to make that work. And I don't think that he's willing to go from $5.7 million a year to league minimum, because that's how he would have to structure that contract in order to make it work. Franz Nielsen, yeah, he got bought out by Detroit, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's out of the league in a year or two because he's just not good enough. Artem Anisimov, they're saying that he's got a professional tryout with Colorado, but I can't confirm that. Anyway, I've barely heard of the man, so I can't really say much about his talent. Jason Demers, again, haven't really heard of the guy, but apparently he made $4.5 million on his last contract, so okay. And Ivan Dubnyk, 4.3 repeating. Yeah, he's making nowhere near that type of money anywhere else because A, he's officially become a backup at this point, and B, the man can't stop a fucking beach ball if it's a high percentage shot. Because, seriously, if you look at his shot charts, he stops easy shots, and then he lets anything with even the slightest amount of risk for being a goal in. He is such an average player, it is actually crazy that the Wild gave him money. Especially since the Wild have a strong defense, and he still sucks in net. Oh well. As for your restricted free agents, there's still quite a few of them. So let's start from the top. Elias Pettersson. Well, his last cap hit was 925 grand. He is going to make a lot more than that coming up. So yeah. Rasmus Dahlin, again, 925. He's obviously going to make a shit ton more than that. He's the franchise cornerstone in defense. And every year he's just gotten progressively better as time goes on. Brady Tkachuk. I've heard that the Senators are trying to give him an 8-year contract extension, so until further news releases on that, I'm not going to judge the Senators, but come on. Give him the damn money. He's your franchise cornerstone of the future. And on top of that, you need to get over the cap floor. Stop being greedy. Kirill Kaprizov. Well, he's had one excellent season, and now Minnesota, as well as Kirill Kaprizov, want to make a huge fucking deal happen. And while I don't blame Minnesota for doing that, because A, they have the cap space for it, and B, they desperately need to start contending. Have you seen the buyout penalties for buying out Parise and Suter? You sure you want to give him all of that money? Because you're paying a Connor McDavid's worth of money to have two players not play for you. You see the financial risk? You've really strapped yourself down. And while it doesn't look like that initially on Cap Friendly, as the years go by, this is going to get worse. Just prepare yourselves for that, Wild fans. Next up, Quinn Hughes. Why has this guy not been extended yet? I know it's because the Canucks are trying to get both of them signed at the same time, but again, he's a franchise potential player. He's an offensively gifted defenseman. He lets damn near nothing through defensively. And you're still playing dilly-dally with him. Why? I mean, come on. I know that money's a little bit tight for Vancouver, considering that they've got about $14-ish million to work with in order to re-sign both Pettersson and Hughes, but come on now. There was a bunch of problems with Vancouver, mainly a shitload of bad contracts. So what they ended up doing is they took all of their bad contracts, dumped them off to Arizona in order to take on OEL. And the issue with OEL is that he has not been playing very well ever since he signed that 8-year extension, and it shows. And while the Coyotes did retain salary, it was only $1 million every single year. So, yeah, you're paying OEL for the next 6 years to suck. Okay, yeah, that was a bit questionable, but whatever, it freed up cap space. And now, okay, well, we can either re-sign both of our franchise cornerstones, or we can sign a bunch of depth pieces. What do you think Vancouver ended up doing? Yeah, they gave term and money to depth pieces. Way to hang yourself by the balls, you fucking morons. Next up, Anatoly Golishev and Kiefer Bellows. Honest to God, haven't heard of either of these players. So, yeah, the Islanders shouldn't have any problem if they decide to let them go and become UFAs. Or just tender their contracts. Robert Thomas, yeah, he deserves a contract. I know he didn't play too much last year, but from what I saw, he's going to be a decent winger. Kyler Yamamoto. Yeah, this guy had a big comeback with the Edmonton Oilers, and I know that the Oilers are cap-strapped, but it would be a big mistake if they decided to let Kyler go. Nolan Patrick goes to Vegas, infamously, and yeah, now Vegas just doesn't have the cap room to sign him. Good luck with that. Logan Brown, he deserves another contract with Ottawa. Not a big one, but he's definitely an NHLer. Otto Koivula, again, I've never heard of this guy before, so it honestly wouldn't surprise me if the Islanders just decided to either tender him or let him go. And last, Zach Zenchin. Now, the thing with Zach Zenchin is that he played 8 games and didn't score a goddamn thing on the depth line. And now that we have signed decent depth like Noshik and Foligno, there's no reason to tender him or re-sign him, so I honestly don't care if we let him go. Make sense? Okay. Now for these absolutely awful contracts. Let's head to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Holy God. Yeah, this team is over $7 million over the cap. Just, wow. They had a very odd strategy this offseason to sign all of their smaller contracts, and then they decided to extend Braden Point at $9.5 million for the next 8 years. I mean, Point definitely deserves that contract. I'm not going to give you shit for it, but the problem is you don't have any cap space to give him that sort of money. So who are you trading? And from the looks of it here on this chart, I'm going to go with Steven Stamkos. And the issue with trading Steven Stamkos is that, yes, that clears $8.5 million of cap space. Here's the issue with that. You have absolutely zero leverage in a trade. Zero. So if you do decide to trade Steven Stamkos, you are getting nothing back. You know that, and you'll have to accept that. So when the day comes that you either Kucherov someone or trade Steven Stamkos, that's why. That's why you will lose that trade. The Habs. One of the weirdest teams where, well, yes, they are $6.7 million over the cap. They have 2 injuries on the LTIR that make this fine. That would be Shea Weber and Paul Byron. And so long as they are off payroll, technically the Habs still have $3.2 million in cap space. So, with that in mind, yes, they are over the cap, but because LTIR is not in effect yet, Shea Weber and Paul Byron, both in which probably aren't going to play at all this year, especially Shea Weber, it's not going to be a big deal. Because when you are on LTIR, your contract comes off the cap. So, even though the Habs are $7 million over the cap, they have $11.25 million on LTIR. So they have plenty of cap room. It's not a big deal. Winnipeg. This surprised me because the Jets are $6 million over the cap, and in spite of this, they just don't have any egregious contracts, really. I mean, they pay a lot of money for that defense. Connor Hellebuck's contract is a fucking steal. And then they pay a bunch of money for Blake Wheeler, but he deserves it. So, yeah, they're just over the cap by a little bit. And the issue here is that Ryan Little, he's going to be on injured reserve for the rest of his career. I don't think he's ever going to play again. So, because of that, even though they are $6 million over the cap, because Brian Little's contract is on LTIR, they are actually only about $700,000 over the cap. It's not a big deal at all. Dallas Stars. This is a very weird. They had a pretty weird offseason where instead of deciding, okay, yeah, we're a bit old, maybe last year was a bit of a fluke, maybe we should retool or even rebuild this roster, they decided, you know what? We're going to sign Ryan Suter to a shit ton of money. Not like he's made a shit ton of money at Minnesota, but whatever. We're going to sign him to a 4-year contract at $3.65 million per. I have one question. You ready for it? He had no fucking leverage! Why would you give him that sort of term or money? He's being bought out for the next 8 years. And you decide to give him money and term? Are you fucking stupid? This is a fantastic deal for Ryan Suter. But when you're looking at this front office, I honestly have to think that they're on drugs or something. Hey, for fuck's sake, you're spending $10.25 million on your goaltending. Ben Bishop is likely going to get injured at some point. Anton Khudobin is way overpaid for a backup. And Braden Holtby is way overpaid in general because he shouldn't even be in the league anymore. Yet you gave him $2 million. Why? You could have easily... I mean, first off, it was smart to pick up another goalie because you know that Ben Bishop's going to get injured at some point in the season. But why would you sign Holtby? Have you not seen his past 2 seasons? The guy's cooked. Come on now. Every other contract except for Suter and Holtby look pretty nice, and this team should compete for several more years so long as Jamie Benn doesn't stop scoring and Alex Radulov doesn't age. Oh, speaking of which, Joe Pavelski and Alex Radulov are going to be unrestricted free agents at the end of the year. So, yeah, this only makes the Suter contract even weirder because if you don't extend or re-sign either of them, how are you going to convince the public that you aren't retooling? Because at that point, you'll definitely be retooling. And you still sign Suter to 4 years? Why? It's one of the most nonsensical contracts in the league. Islanders. Well, let's see. Anders Lee with a nice contract. Matt Barzal with that nice backloaded contract. Yeah, bunch of smooth numbers here on the forward core, defensive core, and goalies. Let's see. They're about $3.7 million over the cap, but because Johnny Boychuk's $6 million is on LTIR, they actually have about $3 million in cap space. So, if they do decide to sign Zajac or someone else, it's not a big deal. Oh my God, they're still paying out Rick DiPietro's buyout. Lucky for them, it doesn't count against the cap anymore, but they're still paying it nonetheless. Oh boy, and that is why you never give injury-prone goalies 15-year contracts. That is one of the worst contracts in NHL history. Anyways, Edmonton Oilers. Speaking of some of the worst contracts in NHL history, why in the absolute fuck are you paying Darnell Nurse $9.25 million for the next 6 years? The fuck is wrong with you? So you're telling me that Colorado can give their franchise guaranteed to probably make the Hall of Fame defenseman, they can give him a 6x9. But you want to one-up them by giving Darnell Nurse money. I mean, yeah, he's the best defenseman on the team, but that's not saying much considering this defensive core kind of sucks. And while we're on that note, why in the fuck did you decide to trade for Duncan Keith? He's not what he used to be. Like, if the year was 2015, I'd be fucking applauding you. Well done. But the thing is, it has been 6 years since Duncan Keith has put up a Norris-level season. So, why the fuck are you giving him money? Or, why the fuck did you trade for him? Makes no sense. Anyways, most of these contracts are just way too much. Specifically, looking at Cody Ceci, 4 years, 3.25. Why? He's an offensive black hole. At least the Chris Russell contract is off after this year. Oscar Klefbom making 4.167, and that's fine, but he gets injured a lot, so he probably won't live up to that. Also, he's got a modified no-trade clause, so good luck getting rid of that contract anytime soon. And then you have your goalies. Holy shit, you guys are fucking idiots with this. Okay, so you're giving Mikko Koskinen $4.5 million so he can give up 4 goals on 4 shots. Never forget that, by the way, Vancouver. People say your team sucks. Well, you can say that you made Mikko Koskinen get pulled with a 0 save percentage. That shit was fucking hilarious. It's still in the memory bank of one of the funniest moments in league history. And considering the Oilers are quite famous for the whole for the whole empty net kerfuffle with the Dallas Stars, that's saying something. So yeah, that's fun. Mike Smith is 39, and you decided to extend him for 1 more year, so now he's going to be with you till age 41. While I'm not going to give you shit for that, I am going to say that you really should have gotten someone who's younger, but then you decide to sign, or not even sign, you claim this fucker off waivers, Alex Stalock for league minimum, essentially. Age 34. Do y'all not realize that older goalies are slower? In the case of Mike Smith, he'll probably be the starter for this team, but man, these goalies are old and none of them look promising. Because as we all know, you can succeed in the playoffs without goaltending. No, the 2010 Flyers does not count. That was a freak anomaly. Oh, yeah. Oh, and on top of that, you bought out James Neal and Andrei Shakira, so good luck paying, let's see, Milan Cicic's retained salary. On top of those 2 buyouts, you're paying essentially $4 million for players to not play for you this year. Excellent cap management. Did I fail to disclose that I am a fan of the Oilers because their ECHL affiliate is located here in Wichita? Fun times. You're over the cap and you're not competitive. Just wow. Speaking of being over the cap and not being competitive, the Chicago Blackhawks. Oh boy. I have got some questions for you. First of all, why the fuck are you paying Seth Jones? Why the fuck did you extend Seth Jones? And why the fuck did you extend him $9.5 million fucking dollars? Why would you do any of that bullshit? It doesn't make any fucking sense. Are you drinking the stupid juice? You have to be. No sane person would make that sort of contract extension to anyone. I mean, seriously, do people just not realize that Tampa's defensive core is way underpaid now that the defensive market is just exploding? I'm going to fear that Charlie McAvoy is going to demand $9 million a year for the next 6 years. And I love the man. I do. I think he's one of the better defensemen of the league, but I'm not going to pay him the same amount that Dougie Hamilton's getting because Dougie's the better defenseman. Fuck you, Chicago. Fuck you. Well, I mean, you got last year's Vezina winner for nothing, so good work on that. Patrick Kane is still one of the best players in the league, and assuming Jonathan Toews comes back from LTIR, you should have a pretty competitive team. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about this team. Carolina Hurricanes. Oh boy, let's talk about teams that have been drinking the stupid juice as of lately. Oh boy, this fucking team. Let's see. They lowballed Dougie Hamilton. I swear. Dougie Hamilton is going to be one of the best defensemen to ever play the game. And then you're going to see that he played for 4 different teams, and you're going to be like, why did nobody want to keep him? For Boston, it was because we had salary cap issues and had to trade him. For Calgary, it was because they're fucking stupid. And for Carolina, it was because they're fucking stupid. And for New Jersey, they saw that, oh, okay, one of the best defensemen in the league wants to play for us. Okay, let's give him a bloated deal because we got a shit ton of cap space. Yeah, way to give up your best defenseman to a division rival for free. You absolute idiots. Speaking of absolute idiocy, let's talk about this fucking signing for Jesperi Kotkaniemi. He is an NHLer through and through, and he deserved a raise. He did. Here's the issue, though. You paid him at about 3 times his actual market value. You gave up a first and third to do this, and he's going to be a restricted free agent the very next year. Huh? Now let's look at your goaltending. Okay, what the fuck is this? Okay, so you're saying that you had a Calder finalist in... Shit. You're telling me that you have a Calder finalist in Alex Nedeljkovic. There we go. You decide to lowball him and then trade him to Detroit. Do you like losing? Because that's what losers do. And then you decide to sign Freddie Anderson to a 2-year deal at $4.5 million. Okay, have you seen his last 2 seasons? And then you also gave a bunch of money to Antti Ranta. That is a better signing than the Freddie Anderson signing, especially since you only paid him $2 million per. Yeah, the goaltending should be average as opposed to when it was excellent. The defense took a massive hit after they lost both Jake Bean and Dougie Hamilton and replaced it with Tony DeAngelo, so good luck with that. And their forward core is just as stacked as ever, but now they have a bunch of completely overpaid forwards. Yeah, this team is going to struggle to make the playoffs. And that's a real shame because they used to be really fucking good. Now they might struggle to make it. Oh yeah, let's give up our 2 best defensemen to division rivals. Completely redo the goaltending that was Vezina and Calder-worthy, and then also, on top of that, give up a first and third so we can overpay one of the most overrated forwards in the league at triple his market value. What the fuck are you doing, Gaines? Anyways, Toronto, my personal favorite team. Do I really need to explain that their 3 highest paid forwards make up around 46% of the league's total salary cap? They're good players, but as you have demonstrably proven, forwards will not get you to a cup. You can't score your way to a cup. It is not 1984. That is not how that works anymore. That rhymed. Then we look at your defense. Yeah, this is pretty well structured. I like it. One issue, you don't have a seventh defenseman, and you're a bit over the cap now. You're giving a professional tryout to Josh Hosang. Good luck with that. And your goalies are wild cards, both of them. You're either going to get the Peter Mrazek that sucks chunks, or the Peter Mrazek that looks like a Vezina Trophy winner. He's one of the most frustratingly inconsistent goalies in the league, and it shows with his career goals against average. Jack Campbell. He came off of what was one of the best rookie seasons out there. And, yeah, I am eager to see what he can do this year. God, that is just... Why the fuck would you pay 3 separate people that much money? You're essentially forced to lowball the rest of the roster because of that. Idiots. Now we look at the Vegas Golden Knights. This team is fucking stacked. Like, I really don't see a weakness in any of these players. Their forward core is stacked even though it's only got 12 of them. Their defense is stacked even though there's only 6 of them. And that goaltending, while it did get weaker, is still incredibly strong with Robin Lehner. And on top of that, they've got Alex Tuck on LTIR. He'll probably come back next year, but I'll be surprised if he plays this year. So yeah, that's how that worked out for Vegas. Not much to say for them. They'll probably be a favorite for the Cup this year. Pittsburgh Penguins also can't rule them out, but I will keep in mind that they have not won a playoff series since 2018 against the Philadelphia Flyers. On top of that, they have only won 5 playoff games since beating the Philadelphia Flyers in 2018. So yeah, this team, man, they really like losing in the first round, and it's really weird, considering they won back-to-back Stanley Cups in 2016 and 2017. Anyway, Malkin, Crosby, Gensel, Zucker, Rust, Kapanen, McGinn, Carter, Bluger, Zach Aston-Reese, Heinen, Rodriguez, Lafferty, Zohorna. Then in your defense, you got Letang, Matheson, Marino, Dumoulin, Pedersen, Marcus Pedersen, not Ilias, Ruhwedel, Friedman, and then in goal is where you have a weakness, where you got Tristan Jarry, Mr. Glovehand, and Casey DeSmith, career backup. Then you also got Juuso Riikola buried in the minors, but it only counts as 25 grand against the cap, so it's not a big deal. On top of that, you've also got professional tryouts for Matt Bartkowski and Brian Boyle, and you're still going to be paying the buyout penalty for Jack Johnson until 2026. So, have fun with that. That is why you never give money to Jack Johnson. He will always make you regret it. Philly. This team is the first team I'm mentioning that is under the cap. Yeah, all those other teams were over the cap. Now, the problem with that is that most of those other teams that are over the cap have people on LTIR that'll put them back underneath the cap as soon as the season starts. So, again, most of those teams' cap issues are not a big deal. Keep that in mind. Claude Giroux, Kevin Hayes, JVR, Cam Atkinson, Travis Konechny, Sean Couturier, Scott Lafton, Oscar Lindbaum, Nicholas Aube-Kubel, Joel Farabee, Morgan Frost, and Derek Brassard is your forward core. Massive amounts of talent here, and if they can't get their shit together and make the playoffs this year, then they're officially done and need to just rebuild, because they've had more than enough opportunities at this point to at least get to another cup final since 2010, and they have just shit the bed every single time. Defense: Provorov, Ellis, Rasmus Ristolainen, Seinham, Justin Braun, Keith Yandel, and Samuel Morin. All of these are decent forwards. All of these are decent defensemen. The issue with most of them is that they're starting to get old. Most specifically, Keith Yandel. Keep that Iron Man streak alive, but yeah, you're not going to enjoy paying him. And then your goalies are Carter Hart and Martin Jones. Fun fact about Martin Jones is that he got bought out by the San Jose Sharks because he just can't have a good season with them. And Philly thought it was a good idea to make them their backup. Not exactly sure why, but that's the state of the Flyers goaltending. Next up, the Washington Capitals. Or as I like to call them, the Crapitals, because they have not won a single playoff round since winning the Cup. Alex Ovechkin got re-signed for $9.5 million until 2026. Good on him. Nicholas Backstrom, Evgeny Kuznetsov, TJ Oshie, Anthony Mantha, Tom Wilson, Lars Eller, Carl Hagelin, Garnet Hathaway, Connor Sheary, Nick Dowd, and Daniel Sprong. Hell of a forward core. All of them getting paid long-term. Defense: John Carlson, Dmitry Orlov, Justin Schultz, Nick Jensen, Michael Kempney, Trevor Van Riemsdyk, and Matt Irwin. Keep in mind that you traded Corey Dillon to Winnipeg and got a second-round pick out of it, so good job there. Keeps you under the cap, and your defense is still pretty damn good. And then in goaltending, you've got Ilya Samsonov and Vitek Vanacek. Keep in mind that Vitek Vanacek was given to Seattle during the expansion draft, and then they traded back for him. So yeah, that's fun for the Crapitals. Let's do the St. Louis Blues now. Ryan O'Reilly, Vladdy Tarasenko, who still hasn't been traded, and I don't think he will be, because nobody wants to take on an injury-prone forward that only knows how to play wing and is one shoulder injury away from permanent damage. Braden Shen, Pavel Buchnevich, hell of a trade, by the way, well done there. Brandon Saad, David Perron, Jordan Kyrou, Oscar Sundqvist, Ivan Barbashev, Zachary Sanford, Kyle Clifford, Mackenzie McCarron, Kyler Bozak, and Robert Thomas. All of these guys are very good, and they are paid like it. Well, except for Robert Thomas. He's still a restricted free agent, but we already discussed that. Defense: Justin Falk, Torrey Krug, Colton Parayko, Marco Scandella, Robert Bertuzzo, Nico Mikkola, Steven Stantini, and Jake Wallman. I had no idea that either of those last two were even in the league. However, the remaining 6 options are really fucking good. Well, Torrey Krug at least. He's got amazing offensive instincts. Even if his defensive instincts aren't quite as good as they used to be, that's not a big deal. He has more than earned that contract. And then in goal, you've got one of the worst tandems in the league, Jordan Binnington and Ville Husso. And the only reason why Binnington is never at risk of losing his job is because Ville Husso is probably the worst goaltender in the league. It is actually impressive how bad Husso is. The fact that he's only making $750,000 is a godsend for the Blues, because if he was making a penny more, he'd be cut. fuck Ville Husso. He fucking sucks, man. Calgary Flames. They got about $1 million of cap space to work with. They've got... Oh, okay. Well, they don't have their 3rd, 4th, or 6th round pick, but they do have 2 seconds. Forward core is pretty damn good. They got Matt Tkachuk, Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, Mikhail Backlund, Milan Lucic, Blake Coleman, Elias Lindholm, Andrew Mangiapane, Dylan Dubé, Tyler Pitlick, Brett Ritchie, Trevor Lewis, Brad Richardson, and Byron Fries. Yeah, that's a pretty nice core. Problem is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them are free agents. 2 of them are arbitration-eligible restricted free agents. So, considering that you only have $1 million in cap space to work with, you're going to have to make a deal at some point. Defense: Noah Hannesfin, Rasmus Andersson, Chris Tanev, Nikita Zadorov, Eric Goodbranson, Juuso Välimäki, and Michael Stone. It's an okay enough defense, but losing Mark Giordano's definitely going to hurt, and considering how bad you sucked last year, you might not make the playoffs. That's all I'm going to say. Goalies: Jacob Markstrom and Daniel Vladar. I mean, that's an okay enough tandem, I guess. And next up, my personal favorite team, the Boston Bruins. They have about $1.1 million in cap space, and they do plan on signing Tuukka Rask just as soon as he recovers from his torn labrum. So, that is why that they are doing what they are doing. Whew, this forward core's fucking stacked, and you know it. Patrice Bergeron, David Pastrnak, Brad Marchand, Taylor Hall, Charlie Coyle, Nick Foligno, Jake DeBrusk, Craig Smith, Eric Halla, Thomas Nosek, Chris Wagner, Trent Frederick, Curtis Lazar, Anton Bleed, and Carson Kuhlman. I cannot wait to watch this team play because they are going to score all of the goals and make your goalie look stupid. Then in defense, you got Charlie McAvoy, Brandon Carlo, Matt Grzelcyk, Derek Forbort, Mike Riley, Connor Clifton, and Jacob Zaboral. Keep in mind that all of these players suffered at least 1 concussion during the regular season last year, and in spite of this, the defense still held strong for Tuukka Rask, and they're going to do the same thing for Linus Ullmark. I'm sure of it. Speaking of goaltending, you've got Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman. And now, keep in mind that John Moore is going to be on LTIR for, I'd say, the whole season. So they also have that off the books, which means that they have about $3.75 million in cap space. So that should be more than enough to call up Jeremy Swayman for the backup position, and maybe make a move at the deadline if they need to. Yeah, people have always said that the Bruins have issues with their scoring depth, and I did to some degree agree with that. Well, now they've solved the depth issue. Florida Panthers, they've got about $1.3 million in cap space to work with. They got nobody on LTIR. Thank you, Keith Yandel, for leaving. And, yeah, this is a team that looks like they are in win-now mode. Look at this forward core. Sam Reinhart, Alexander Barkov, Jonathan Huberdeau, Patrick Hornqvist, Sam Bennett, Anthony Duclair, Frank Vatrano, Noel Acciari. Why do they sign so many former Bruins? Carter Verhaeghe, Eetu Luostarinen, Owen Tippett, Mason Marchment, Joe Thornton, again with the former Bruins, Zach Delpe, Juho Lamiko, and Ryan Lomberg. A bunch of these people are up at the end of the year, and apart from Alex Barkov, it really shouldn't matter. Defense: Aaron Ekblad, Brandon Montour, Mackenzie Weegar, Marcus Nudivara, Gustav Forsling, Radko Gudas, and Noah Juulsen. Yeah, it's an odd defensive core, but so long as Ekblad stays healthy this year, I expect big things from this team. In net, you've got Sergei Bobrovsky, that is easily one of the worst contracts in hockey. Not that Bob is a bad goaltender, he's not, but he's not worth that sort of money. Nobody is. And Spencer Knight backing him up at 925. Well done. Also, you got to keep in mind that this year you will be dedicating, let's see, what's 3.525 plus 1.1? $4.625 million to players that aren't playing for you. So, well done with that cap management, Florida. We're proud of you. And then next year it's even worse because then you have to pay out for Keith Yandel's second year of the buyout, which goes from $2.3 million to $5.4 million. So, yeah. Then you'll be paying $6,575,000 for two players that aren't going to play for you. I find it fucking hilarious whenever that happens. Colorado Avalanche. Here we go. This is my personal pick for the Stanley Cup this year. And it shows with how ridiculous this team is. Mikko Rantanen, Gabriel Landeskog, Nathan McKinnon, Andre Burakovsky, Nazem Kadri, go fuck yourself. JT Compher, Valeri Nichushkin, Tyson Host, Darren Helm, Mikhail Maltsev, Stefan Mathieu, and Kiefer Sherwood. Hell of a forward core, even if there's only 12 of them. And then we go to defense. Cale Makar, Eric Johnson, Sammy Gerard, Devin Tays, Ryan Murray, Bowen Byram, Curtis McDermott, and Jordan Gross. Yeah, this is a fucking gross roster. If this team doesn't at least make the Stanley Cup Finals, it should be considered a failure. And then in net, you've got Darcy Kemper and Pavel Francouz. Yeah, this is the front runner for the Stanley Cup. Just an absolutely sick roster. San Jose Sharks. They got about $2.6 million in cap space, which is impressive considering how poorly they've managed the cap over the years. At forwards, you got Logan Couture, Evander Kane, Timo Meier, Thomas Hertl, Kevin LeBanc, Nick Bonino, Rudolph Spoelsers, Dylan Cambrell, Andrew Cogliano, Alexander Barabanov, John Leonard, Matt Nieto, Nick Merkley, Noah Gregor, and Lane Peterson. As usual, the depth kind of sucks, but these top-end talents should be enough to get you at least close to the playoffs. And then there's the defensive aspects, which always takes you out of the playoffs. Erik Karlsson at that ridiculous $11.5 million extension. Why the fuck would you give that to him? Brent Burns. Yeah, he's not what he used to be, and you're paying him $8 million until he's 40. Actual idiots. Marc-Edouard Vlasic. Same thing. You are going to be giving Vlasic $7 million until he's 38. What the fuck is the matter with you? Radim Simic. Never heard of him. Mario Ferrero. Never heard of him. Nikolai Nisov? Yeah, I'm going to go with Nisov. Again, never heard of him. You've only got 6 defensemen, and 3 of them I've never heard of, and the other 3 are way overpaid. Yeah, that's your defense right now. Kinda sucks. Then you go into your goalies, James Reimer and Aiden Hill. I mean, Reimer should be serviceable, but I've never heard of Aiden Hill in my life. So, yeah, that's going to suck. Speaking of things that are going to suck, you're going to be paying the buyout penalty for Martin Jones until 2027. Hope it was worth it, boys. I personally think it was worth it because fucking hell he sucked. LA Kings. Somehow the Kings have gone from having the most cap space in the league to having Very little of it at 2.7 million. I guess this shit just happens. Anyways, Anze Kopitar's still one of the best defensive forwards out in the league. Dustin Brown, thank God that contract's coming off the books soon. Philip Delano, Victor Arvidsson, Alex Iafallo, Andreas Athanasiou, Adrian Kemp, Trevor Moore, Brendan Lemieux, Austin Wagner, Gabriel Velarde, Blake Lizotte, and Carl Grundstrom. So what I'm getting from this is that they're becoming tougher to play against. Cool. But the thing is, most teams that want to be tough to play against also want to compete, and this team doesn't look good enough to compete. Defense, Drew Doughty, Alex Edler, Oli Mata, Matt Roy, or Wah, not sure, Sean Walker, Mikael Anderson, Tobias Bjornfoot, and Christian Wolanin. Not exactly sure what they're doing here on the defense, but yeah, you're going to be regretting that Drew Doughty contract until it's finally off your hands. And then in net, you've got Jonathan Quick and Cal Peterson. Excellent tandem so long as Jonathan Quick can not be horrible. Because he did have 1 year where he was horrible, and then he kind of came back from it. It's an odd story, really. I'm not sure how Jonathan Quick does it, but he's fairly inconsistent at this point, even though he used to be the best goalie in the league. Then you've got about $3.5 million dedicated towards players that are not going to play for you this year. Excellent cap management, folks. Maybe that's why they shot up a bit. Anyways, Seattle Kraken. This team has a shit ton of cap space, and they're one of the first teams to have a bunch of cap space. They got about $8.4 million in room, and all of their roster spots are filled. And I personally cannot wait to visit Climate Pledge Arena in February 24th, whenever they take on the Bruins at Climate Pledge Arena. They got Jordan Eberle. That's going to be a fantastic selection for them. Jaden Swartz, Yanni Gord, again, just an absolutely fantastic guy. He can play pretty much any forward position you need on top of just getting points. Alex Wenberg, Eunice Donskoy, Brandon Tanev, Jaron McCann, Cale Yarncrook, Marcus Johansson, Mason Appleton, Riley Shahan, Nathan Bastian, Ryan Donato, Colin Blackwell, Mark Giordano, Jamie Alexiak, Adam Larson, Vince Dunn, Carson Soucy, Hayden Fleury, William Borgen, Jeremy Lauzon. And then in net, you've got Philip Grubauer and Chris Drieger. Yeah, this team should make the playoffs in the Pacific, only because the Pacific Division sucks, but I am excited. And so should you be. New York Rangers. I have no idea what the fuck this team's doing. I really don't. And just about the only saving grace is that they still have a shit ton of cap space. I don't get it. I don't get it. Okay, so Artemi Panarin, Chris Kreider, my bad. Trigger's in Seattle. Mika Zibanejad, Ryan Strome, Barclay Goodrow, Philip Chittle, Ryan Reeves, Sammy Blais, Vitaly Kravtsov, Capo Caco, Alexei Lafreniere, Julien Gauthier, Dryden Hunt, and Kevin Rooney. This is a great forward core. The issue with it is you have a bunch of grit that really should not be here. Barclay Goodrow, great player. Should he really make $3.641 million until 2028? No. And then you also traded for Ryan Reeves and then gave him a 1-year extension on top of it. Why? That does not fit with your team identity at all. And I can see him having major issues with going from Vegas all the way over to the East Coast. Because with people like this, they aren't just enforcers, they're just straight up assholes. Then on the defense, you got Jacob Trouba, Ryan Lindgren, Patrick Nemeth, Adam Fox, Condre Miller, Jared Tenorti, Libor Hayek, and Anthony Boteto. This should be a fantastic defensive core if everyone stays healthy. Then in goalie, you've got Igor Shesterkin and Alex Georgiev. That is one of the best tandems in the league, and you are lying if you say otherwise. Then you look at how many fucking people this team has bought out over the years. You got Henrik Lundqvist, Kevin Shattenkirk, Dan Girardi, Tony DeAngelo, and Brad Richards. And specifically for Brad Richards, you're going to be paying that buyout out of the ass for the next, until 2026. So good luck with that. I know that you were desperate to win a cup in 2014, but if it meant giving Brad Richards a ridiculous contract, then maybe you just shouldn't have given him that contract, you know? Okay, Columbus. Let's talk about them, shall we? They got about $10.5 million in cap space, and their biggest question mark was whether or not they were going to extend Patrick Laine, and sure enough, they did. So, let's look at their forward core. Jakub Voracek, Patrick Laine, Gustav Nyquist, Oliver Bjorkstrand, Max Domi, Boone Jenner, who I like to call Bruce Jenner, Sean Corrali, Jack Roslovic, Alexandre Texier, Kevin Stenlund, Eric Robinson, Emil Bemstrom, Yegor Shinikov, and Gregory Hoffman. Shinikov, assuming that he plays this year, will be an excellent middle sixer. And yeah, most of this forward core is just average, everyday NHLers. However, this defense got a massive upgrade. Not only did they get rid of Seth Jones, but they acquired Jake Bean for essentially nothing, and then gave him a pretty nice contract on top of it. So, well done there, Columbus. Let's just name off the defense, shall we? Zach Werenski, Vladislav Gavrikov, Jake Bean, Dean Kukan, Scott Harrington, Mikko Lehtinen, Adam Boquist, Andrew Peak, and Gabriel Carlson. Yeah, not only is it an extensive defense, but it's also a loaded defense. Well done. And then your goalie will be Elvis Merzlinkin and Eunice Corpusalo. Both of them have the same issue. They're inconsistent as hell. However, if you get both of them at their best, this can be one of the best goaltending tandems in the league. Problem is, neither of them are at their best. Yeah. Pretty boring, really. Then you got the Vancouver Canucks, who's one of the most interesting cases where, yes, they technically only have $10.6 million in cap space, but they also have a Mikael Furland on LTIR. So because of that, they also have about $14 million in cap space. And their biggest question marks right now are Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. Now, since I already went over the Canucks, I'm just going to list off the roster. Brock Besser, Bo Horvat, JT Miller, Connor Garland, Tanner Pearson, Jason Dickinson, Tyler Mott, Brandon Sutter, Nils Hall-Glander, Zach McEwen, Justin Dowling, Philip DeGiuseppe, Justin Bailey, Matthew Highmore, and Elias Pettersson. Defense, you got OEL, Tyler Myers, Travis Hamonic, Tucker Poolman, Jack Rathbone, Luke Shen, Brad Hunt, Oli Ulevi, and Quinn Hughes. And then in net, you got Thatcher Demko and Yaroslav Halak. Well done. Just get your 2 franchise cornerstones signed already. Nashville Predators. Yeah, this team sucks. It really shows that it is a miracle this team made the playoffs. They blew up this roster in the offseason. Matt Duchene, one of the most overpaid forwards in the league because he's essentially a middle sixer on a team that sucks. Ryan Johansson, Philip Forsberg, Mikael Granlund, Colton Sissons, Luke Kunin, Rocco Grimaldi, Nick Cousins, Ely Tullivan, Tanner Jeannot, Matt Loof, Matthew Oliver, and Yakov Trenin. As usual, Predators forwards just aren't up to snuff usually. Their defense, however, is still loaded. They got Roman Josi, Matthias Ekholm, Philip Myers, Dante Fabro, Mark Borowicki, and Matthew Benning with Ben Harper. Yeah, I don't care that 4 of these guys are up next year. This is a fucking loaded defense, and if the Nashville Predators bullshit their way into the playoffs, it's because of both their defense and their goaltending. UC Saros and David Riddick. This Riddick signing is interesting to me because if you saw his performance in Calgary or Toronto, you'll see that he's one of the most inconsistent players in the league. Sometimes he looks great, other times he looks like he doesn't belong in the league. Next up, my personal favorite for chaos, the Arizona Coyotes. And if you know me, then it'll be a brass bonanza! Look at this absolutely gutted roster. Clayton Keller, Phil Kessel, Louis Eriksson, Eric Smoltz, Andrew Ladd, Dmitry Yaskin, Antoine Roussel, Jay Beagle, Lawson Cruz, Johan Larson, Ryan Zingle, Christian Fisher, Liam O'Brien, Travis Boyd, Anton Stroman, Jacob Chikrin, Shane Gostisbehere, Ilya Labushkin, Connor Timmins, Kaya Copabianco, Carter Hutton, Joseph Coroner, and the retained salary of OEL, Darcy Kempner, and Mikhail Grabner. This team is fucked. Please come to our games. Fuck, that hurt my voice. But yeah, overall, this team is going to suck. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if they won the Tank Bowl this year because, yeah, none of these players are going to stick. On top of that, damn near all of them are unrestricted free agents at the end of the year. So, yeah, this team sucks. And that was before they traded Christian Dvorak. Now they super suck. Next up, the New Jersey Devils, one of the teams with the highest potentials. And they have $12 million in cap space. Okay, we got Nico Hischier, who also got named the captain of the team. I may have freaked out when they gave him that massive contract, but so far he's earned it. Thomas Tatar, Andreas Janssen, Miles Wood, Jesper Bratt, Pavel Zacha, Yegor Sharagovich, Yanni Kukanen, Michael McLeod, Jesper Voquist, Jack Hughes, and Marian Studnik. Okay, so a bunch of their forwards are difficult to pronounce, but yeah, oh boy. Okay, so in terms of Miles Wood, Jesper Bratt, and Pavel Zacha, all of them are arbitration-eligible restricted free agents at the end of this year, so that'll be fun. But, again, they have $12 million in cap space, so it shouldn't really matter. Then you look at this defense, and yeah, this is a really fucking good defense. Dougie Hamilton, PK Subban, Damon Severson, Ryan Graves, Jonas Siegenthaler, Ty Smith, and Kristen Yaros. Yeah, this team should absolutely rely on its defense, and they should make Dougie Hamilton the tip of the spear. Also, would it kill them to give Dougie Hamilton the A? Just saying. And then for their goalies, you got Jonathan Bernier, Mackenzie Blackwood, and Scott Wedgwood. All of them should have career years with that absolutely loaded defense backing them up. They've also given professional tryouts to Tyler Wotherspoon, Mark Jankowski, and Jimmy Vesey. it would surprise me if Jimmy Vesey doesn't make the team, considering how well of a season he had with Toronto and then later Vancouver. Then we look at the Minnesota Wild, and this team is waiting on a single signing, and that would be Kirill Kaprizov. I think it's done. It would amaze me if Kaprizov ends up not playing this year. Anyways, their forward core is pretty damn stacked. You got Matt Zuccarello, Joel Eriksson Ek, Kevin Fiala, Victor Rask. Thank God that contract's coming up. Marcus Foligno, Jordan Greenway, Ryan Hartman, Frederick Gaudreau, Nick Bjugstad, Joseph Camarosa, Kyle Rao, Nico Stern, and Kirill Kaprizov. Well done. Then this defense is fucking loaded. Jared Spurgeon, Jonas Brodin, Matt Dumba, Alex Guglielski, Dmitry Kulikov, Jordy Ben, and John Merrill. Yeah, that might be one of the best defensive cores in the league. And then you got the goalie tandem of Cam Talbot and Kaapo Kähkönen, who I think that Kapanen is going to have a fantastic year this year. I think he's really going to break out, and I think that he's going to be one of the best young goalies in the league. Anaheim. Yeah, this team just... They got a bunch of young talent that should control the future, but afterwards, they're done. Adam Henrique, still an excellent contract, although that could change toward the ends of it. Jakob Silverberg, still fantastic. Ricard Raquel took a nosedive. Ryan Getzloff, he just isn't the same anymore. Maxime Comtois should be a really fun young prospect for the future. Sonny Milano, Derek Grant, Troy Terry, Max Jones, Nicolas Deslauriers? Yeah, I have no idea how to pronounce that. Alex Volkov, Sam Steele, Isaac Lundestrom, and Buddy Robinson. Then on the defense, it's a little thin. They got Cam Fowler, way overpriced. Hampus Lindholm, Josh Manson, Kevin Shattenkirk, Jacob Larson, and Cody Curon. So yeah, signing Kevin Shattenkirk should definitely bolster up this defense, but it's still so weak. And then you've got the goalies of John Gibson and Anthony Stolarz. John Gibson is one of the best goalies in the league, and you're fucking lying to yourself if you think otherwise. Then on IR, you've got Ryan Kessler for the rest of his career. He's definitely not playing again. And, let's see, they're also giving a professional tryout to Tobias Reeder. Okay. Yeah, okay. Then you've got the Detroit Red Wings, who have $15 million in cap space. On top of that, their forward core looks a lot better than it did that year. They only won 17 games. With Dylan Larkin, Jakob Vrana, Tyler Bertuzzi, P.S. Suter, Robbie Fabry, Adam Ernie, Vladislav Nemestikov, Mikhail Rasmussen, Philip Zadina, Sam Gagne, Marta Rowney, and Mitchell Stevens. I mean, it's nothing impressive, but it will get you a lot further than it did a couple years ago. And then the defense will be Nick Leddy, Danny DeKeyser, Philip Hronik, Mark Stahl, Troy Stetcher, Jordan Osterley, and Gustav Lindstrom. Well done. And then your goalies are Thomas Greiss and Alek Nedeljkovic. If you do end up with a much better season, it's because this goaltending has absolutely improved. No doubt about it in my mind. And you've got the two bottom feeders of the league, and I'm going to keep calling them that because that's exactly what they are. Let's start off with the Ottawa Senators. This fucking team, Jesus, they have got all the picks for this year. They've got 2 seconds, 3 thirds, and 3 sevenths, as well as all of their own picks. So, yeah, if they do end up as a superstar team in the next few years, we know why. Okay, so their forwards are incredibly short. They got Drake Batherson, Colin White, Connor Brown, Chris Tierney, Austin Watson, Nicholas Paul, Joshua Norris, Tim Stützle, who should be the future franchise cornerstone, Shane Pinto, Cole Sherwood, and Alex Fermenton. And then they still haven't gotten a contract for Brady Tkachuk, which is incredibly stupid considering they've got $24.5 million in cap space and are $2 million beneath the cap floor. Yes, you have to spend money in the NHL. It is a requirement. Then on defense is still pretty bad, but they've got Thomas Chabot on top, Nika Zaitsev, Artem Zub, Michael Del Zotto, Nick Holden, Josh Brown, Victor Mete, and Eric Brandstrom. So yeah, the defense is getting better, even if it's still not good. And then the goaltending is Matt Murray and Anton Forsberg. Should be a better tandem than the last one, but that's not saying much. And now we go to the absolute abject shit show that is the Buffalo Sabres. This team has $23.6 million in cap space and is $2 million over beneath the salary floor. Their best player is probably Jeff Skinner. No, he's their highest paid player. Their best player is Kyle Okposo. But yeah, that is easily one of the worst contracts in hockey, and they still just don't have much. Like, that $9 million a year doesn't faze them at all because they just don't spend any money anywhere else. Kyle Okposo, Victor Olofsson, Casey Middlestat, Cody Eakin, Zemgus Girgensons, Anders Bjork, Tage Thompson, Vinny Hinostroza, Dylan Cozens, Rasmus Asplund, Ryan McInnes, Drake Kajula, and John Hayden. This team fucking sucks. Colin Miller, Will Butcher, Henry Jokiharju, Robert Hagg, Mark Pizik, Jacob Bryson, and Rasmus Dahlin, who still doesn't have a contract, by the way. So yeah, this defense is absolute dog shit. Did I mention that all of them are unrestricted free agents at the end of the year? Exception to Henry Jokiharju, but he's barely NHL worthy at this point. Craig Anderson and Aaron Dell as your goaltenders. Yeah. Oh boy. And then on LTIR is Jack Eichel because he still hasn't gotten permission to get the surgery that he wants and refuses to undergo traditional surgery for his neck. And until the Sabres figure out a deal or just straight up trade him, they're in a permanent state of limbo, and I don't see them getting out of it anytime soon. This team is abjectively one of the worst in the league, and it would surprise me if they don't finish with one of the worst records in NHL history. Their one good player is on LTIR, and he doesn't want to play for the team anymore. You should be fucking ashamed of yourself that you let your team be this fucking bad. Just pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. And it's not like you have a shit ton of picks either. You got 2 firsts, your own second, your own third, your own fourth, New Jersey's fifth, your own sixth, your own seventh, and then 2 seconds for next year. That's it. That's all the assets you have. Like, this team just sucks. And if you're a Sabres fan, I'm not making fun of you, I'm making fun of the team. God, fuck the Pagulas. My name is Trey McGathan. This has been a super long video, and I understand that if you don't want to watch the entirety of it. However, if you did enjoy this, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. My name is Trey McGathan, and I'll be seeing you soon.